It's all rumors, supposedly for Jazz Chisholm Jr., but after those rumors come out, a home run and a stolen base. Jazz Chisholm Jr. mixing it up on his third base celebration rounding. Does it mean anything? Is Jazz Chisholm Jr. tipping the cap to the Atlanta Braves, letting them know that he's interested and headed that way? I don't know. I don't know what it means. It might be nothing. But this is Locked on Marlins.
You are Locked on Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked on Marlins, your daily Marlins pod. I am your host and English host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up, of course, at Miami Marlins _UK. This is being recorded straight after the news. If you were not wondering and you were wondering what the hell is going on, why is Pete laboring the point? England are in the Euros final. They have just spanked the Netherlands 2-1, a 90th minute winner. An absolute stunner of a finish. So England will be in the final against Spain. Absolute stunner of a final. Looking forward to that one. There will be a lot of Spanish Rioja consumed during that day. I can tell you that right now. This, of course, is your team every day. And thanks for making Locked on Marlins your first listen. There's a YouTube channel. Hit subscribe over on the YouTube channel. And I want to welcome in a guest, a familiar guest, a stud, loud Marlins fan in the house. Chase, how we doing, brother?
We're doing all right, Pete. We're alive. We're celebrating an English victory over the Netherlands. Let's do it.
Let's go. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB, for a first deposit match up to $100. The Marlins played a game yesterday. It was against the Astros. The news preceding that was that the Marlins are entertaining the situation where they may look to trade Jazz Chisholm Jr. as well as many others. Chase, it's the 10th of July at this point. The draft is upcoming, so I feel like all attention will be focused on the draft right now for the next few days, let's say. But then I feel like there's 2 weeks of serious activity. I feel like the Marlins are going to be right in the mix. I feel like there's going to be a lot of deals. How are you seeing the Marlins at this deadline and the activity we're expecting here?
Well, right now we're going to, concentrate on the draft a little bit. The Dogs agree, draft first, then the trade deadline later. They're unhappy about Jazz being traded. But yeah, they got to focus on the draft. You're at 16. You're right in the end of the last rounds, or the end of the first round, middle of the first round. Gotta, I hope they go after some hitters and not pitching.
Yeah, you're thinking they go hitter. I mean, from experience tells me I trust the Marlins. I trust the old Marlins to draft pitchers, and I didn't trust anyone in the old regime to draft any hitters. Maybe that's going to change now. I mean, do you trust this new look, I guess, drafting, scouting process? Do you trust them taking a hitter?
I don't know if trust is the right term. I am anxious to see how they will do. I am hopeful, not trusting, hopeful that the money that Peter Bendix has allocated to drafting and then building the players up from basically scratch, getting the best talent out of them over the next couple of years. I hope that is the move and that the money is well spent in development.
Yeah. What have you made this year about what seems to be like a little bit of an uptick, I would say, in terms of the minor league production? There's definitely a few names that have looked to be trending in the right direction. So do you think this is directly linked to the changes they've made, or it's just the ebbs and flows of player development? I don't know. How much do you put to the changes front office wise?
If it was one or two players, I would say that's just growth. But there's an overwhelming amount of young talent that wasn't producing in the past couple of years since being drafted that have now all of a sudden shot out of a cannon. Jacob Berry, one of the hottest hitters. Where did that come from? Is it really putting him in the outfield that helped him? Or, Are they really using the advanced metrics and programs that they've put together to develop them? Joe Mack comes to mind. That guy was forgotten as a catcher. In spring you've seen McIntosh and I'm forgetting the what is it, Will or
Banfield.
Yeah, Banfield. There you go, Will Banfield. You've seen them over the last couple springs as the backup catchers getting some time. Joe Mack was forgotten. And even saying McIntosh and Banfield, both of them in a position of weakness, that is on this team, a position of weakness. That growth is happening right in front of you. You have Conine bashing home runs, less strikeouts, bashing home runs. Tristan Gray, I know he's new to the organization. So I have to believe it's something different. Is it that DJ is gone? Is it that there's new development people in the league? Yeah, that has to be it.
Feels like it, doesn't it? For me, the most obvious ones are the couple of guys you mentioned at the top, like Jacob Berry struggled mightily at every level within the Marlins organization. He struggled pretty much in his, the day they unveiled him at Lone Depot. I remember seeing that and thinking, man, oh man, he definitely doesn't look like a third baseman. There was a couple of balls chipped over to him at third base. It looked putrid. He took a little bit of random BP. I don't think any balls came anywhere near leaving the field. It looked horrible. I was like, oh man, okay. Joe Mack, another one you've called out. He was a young guy that was drafted, right? These catches always take time, but those are the two names you look at and you go, okay, something looks like it's changed. Something different has happened. Let's not forget, though, Jacob Berry started this year absolutely stone cold again. He then was injured or wasn't playing for a while, and since then he's been on fire. So, listen, it would be a huge, huge benefit for the Marlins if all of a sudden Jacob Berry could rediscover the Jacob Berry that was drafted. Joe Mack, the same. And so, are the Marlins now able to develop hitting? That would be a huge one because they've always been able to develop pitching, and we've seen that. The guys they can identify taking the early rounds in the main, they're able to spin them. One other note, mate, as well, I saw across the league today, Jake Eder has been promoted to the White Sox roster. I believe is the 27th man. I'm assuming they must be playing a doubleheader. But Jake Eder looks to be, I guess, my assumption would be he's going to make a start in one of the two games potentially. So there's another kind of Marlins favorite, right? And, got the guy that was used to acquire Jake Berger, but another Marlins pitcher, right, that makes it to the big leagues.
Yep.
So, they have a track record for that, right? Max Meyer as well, just to briefly on Max Meyer, he's had probably his best AAA start, I would say, recently. They're finally fully stretching Max back out. I think the expectation is he's going to be back up before the deadline, it seems, Max Meyer, which I think it's overdue. We know why they've done it because they want that, the extra service time and et cetera, or the extra club control. But, there's going to be guys leaving. We're going to talk about them after the first ad. But, Max Meyer may be one of the first guys up, I would guess, in the next couple of weeks, right? And, it feels overdue. But how are you feeling about Max Meyer generally in terms of where he's at in this organization and what he can do for the Marlins kind of going forward?
You saw him in a couple starts. He struggled a little bit. He also won a couple games at the beginning of the season. He gets sent down. He didn't really appreciate, we'll say, being sent down. He took it to heart, didn't pitch as well. I'm looking forward to him producing for this team moving forward. We need it. We're not going to be able to get through the second half without him, we'll say. We hope he stays healthy. Coming off Tommy John, it's always scary. There's a big difference from throwing to minor league guys than throwing to major league guys. And you just hope that he doesn't try too hard and re-injure himself. But he's the future of this team. He's a first-round draft pick. He's one of your top prospects, which it's crazy we're still calling him a prospect. This is now his third year. Last year he was off, but he made his rookie debut in 2022 for 2 starts. But yeah, he's the future of this team. We don't know what they're doing with pitching. You don't know off-season wise. You don't know if Sandy's going to come back, when he's going to come back fully healthy. Same thing with Yuri. Weathers now you can say is really shut down till at least September. Jesus Luzardo may not come back this season.
Yep.
Edward Cabrera had a decent start, I'd say.
I mean, it was
Decent.
normal Edward Cabrera,
Yeah.
usual.
You can't get through the rest of the season without Max being producing, and you hope he can be he's not schemes, right? You're not going to get that overpowering stuff from him.
Yep.
But at least get him in that discussion as one of the future pitchers in the league.
Yeah. What do you see Max Meyer? Do you see him as like a number 3 guy? Like, is that what he is? Like, I don't see him as an ace, for example. I don't believe there's that in his profile, like a number 1 for a decent club, a non-tanker. But like, what is Max Meyer? What is his ceiling, do you think?
We don't see him as a number 1. I think he sees himself as a number 1. And that's great to have that mentality, right? You want that guy to have the confidence that he can out-pitch any batter. And I think from what I've heard, he's a young guy who talks the talk. Now he has to walk the walk. I hope he can be a 1 or 2 guy, or at least play like it, right? Come out and from the beginning of a game, not have that rough first inning. But where in the rotation does he fall when everybody's healthy? If Sandy's back, if Yuri's back, he's automatically a 3rd guy there, assuming Jesus Luzardo comes back and is traded. But with all 4 of those, Max is automatically the 4th guy. With Weathers and Brax back healthy, he's the 4th or 5th guy. So you just, that's the thing you don't know, and it's about time we find out.
Oh, I think we're going to find out. I absolutely do. And I think the thing that you've highlighted there really is the sheer number of guys that the Marlins have pitching-wise. Many of them are hurt right now, which really isn't optimal. But considering the state of the offense and considering what they need to improve on offensively, the same challenge remains that Kim Ang was facing into. We're going to have to move some arms to get some sticks. The same remains. However, to me, we're going to get into this straight after the ad, and I really want to get your take on this specific topic. To me, it looks like the Marlins are about to move, in my opinion, their best stick at the big league level. Yeah, exactly. Chase got the T-shirt on. For those watching on YouTube, they're going to enjoy that T-shirt, no doubt. So we're going to talk about Jazz in more depth. As soon as the rumors come out, he answers with a lead-off bomb. Definitely gave it the mix-it-up celebration rounding 3rd. I don't know what that was about. I've never seen Jazz ever do that at 3rd base. And so, interesting one. Might be nothing, of course. But before we do that, let's get over to our good friends at Booking.com. Yes, sir. And this episode of Locked on Marlins is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. And with summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about your rival cities. Get yourself into Houston. It'd be absolutely stunning, no doubt. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival's city. As you know, I'm a big, massive fan of Booking.com. They are my go-to place to find hotels, particularly when I'm traveling for sports. London series, all in on Booking.com a week in advance. No problem. Got a great hotel in a great spot for a great price. Even my wife gave me the thumbs up on that one. Couldn't say fairer than that. So the right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com, on the site, or in the Booking.com app. And this episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at Game Time. Yes, sir. And Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on Game Time actually go down the closer you get to the first pitch. And with killer last-minute tickets, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time, it takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. I particularly like that all-in pricing. One thing I hate about buying tickets is where I don't know the total price until I get to checkout. Next thing is fees. And all of a sudden, the price isn't the price. With Game Time, you can toggle this feature to show the totals up front. No surprise fees at checkout. And also, seat views. I'm all in on that. I want to know exactly what the view will be from the seat before I buy. Normally, I'm looking front row, so I kind of know what the view is going to be like. But nevertheless, you get that view from your seat in the app before you buy. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. You simply download the Game Time app. You create an account and you use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. All right, guys, welcome back to Locked On Marlins on Wednesday, the 10th of July. Breaking news. England are in the Euros final. They have just spanked the Netherlands 2-1. That isn't really a spanking. Nevertheless, it was a 90th minute winner for England. They play Spain in the final. Yes, sir. I know this isn't baseball talk, but it doesn't matter. You have an English host of your podcast, and I will talk about this at least for 30 seconds today. Chase, we need to talk about Jazz Chisholm Jr. Big news from Craig Mish. Earlier in the year, Craig Mish talking about Jazz, not expected to be moved. Now, Craig Mish saying, expecting Jazz to be moved. Let's rewind the clock. And listen, we have the receipts. We hit record. Everything we do is published and is in the domain. 2 years ago, you were saying to me, Jazz Chisholm Jr. could be moved. No one believed it. It feels like we're 2 years on, but it feels like that's going to be the situation we walk into here. Jazz is saying all rumors. He remains all business. What's your take on this whole Jazz Chisholm Jr. trade situation?
I want to preface this. I do not want Jazz moved.
Me either.
I've always said I want him to sign long-term. He's the face of the franchise, whether he's a 250 hitter, a 290 hitter, if he's hitting 20 bombs, if he's hitting 30 bombs. He's healthy. He's good. And when he's healthy and he's on that field, he's the heartbeat of this team. I've always said that, and I'll stick by that. I have talked about for the last 2 years him being moved. Not something I wanted, but it is stuff I'm hearing. And many say I don't have sources. They never come true. I do have sources. They just never come true, and the trigger's never been pulled.
I feel you on that, mate.
In his all-star season, he was before his injury. I think it was a back injury or something to that aspect at the time. He was taking BP at the All-Star game. They were trying to move him because he didn't get along with Mattingly. He didn't get along with Rojas. It wasn't his locker room. He talked about all that stuff on his podcast, how it was a miserable year for him. But the talks were there. You can't move an injured Jazz. Fast forward to last year. Same talks. He gets injured just before the deadline or just before the All-Star area. Or he was injured a couple times last season. The foot injury happened around this time last season.
Yep.
Can't move him. They weren't even talking about it. It's always been rumored. And I've heard these teams. I mentioned somewhere, you could look at it, either Twitter or on your show. I mentioned McHale, the Kansas City guy. I think it's McHale. I mentioned that guy. That was always in play. It was a third baseman. That's who they wanted last year. They didn't want Jake Berger. Just wanted to point that out. Jake Berger was the third. They wanted the Yankees guy, and they wanted the Kansas City guy. That's what I heard.
Yeah, Miguel Garcia you're talking about, right?
Garcia. Yeah, Miguel Garcia. They wanted him.
I remember you talking about him. I think you mentioned him on the show. I remember you talking about him.
I did. And it's back up. Oh, the Kansas City Orioles have always been in this discussion. Mm-hmm. Seattle's been in this discussion. I know
good fit.
And it's
good
not
fit.
fact. I'm hearing the things. I believe the people that talk to me that have stake in relationships. Mm-hmm. And they've told me Seattle's been talking since around the Arias trade.
Makes sense.
They want more because the thing about Jazz, and you heard it on the podcast, he has an ego. How would he fit with contending teams? That's the concern of other franchises. Mm-hmm. So they want more with Jazz. It's going to happen. I don't want it to. I don't understand. I understand it from a building piece. You need to get something back for him. Is he though at his highest possible productivity of that he can bring something back right now? Are we going to get that chip that he can actually bring? You had a rise worth more before this season. You had Jesus Luzardo worth more before this season. Their value was all the way up. Is Jazz's value where it should be right now? Batting, 248 or around there in the 240s? How many home runs does he have? 13 or 14 now? He just went on
I can tell you specifically, he's got 11.
11. I'm overshooting it.
You are.
He's changed his game a little bit.
He has changed. You're right.
And I think he's matured a lot.
Agreed.
From the way he speaks, he's not the baby he once was, and that Skip Schumacher. But from a value standpoint, I would keep him. And if you're going to trade him, do it after the offseason. The fans need a reason to come to games. The kids are so in love with Jazz because he gives back. He signs things. He takes questions from them. He is the face of the franchise. So what's the difference of trading him now versus a healthy full season where you see his actual production? We've never seen it in his second half. He's always been injured. So let's see what we got here.
Yep.
And his center field plays better. So will it happen? Most likely, if you want to believe. Craig Mish is now on that train that we've been talking about for a while. You have the national guys talking about it, and they're probably hearing from the same people who are in that circle of the people that I'm hearing it from. Never going to give sources away, never going to say who tells me things, but they're hearing it. They've mentioned the teams we've mentioned. It's nothing new. I hate for it to happen. I know you hate for it to happen.
No doubt.
I don't see a reason right now. Why this month? Why not wait till the end of the season? Why not wait to next season? See what they build around him.
Yeah.
He is a building piece. He's not the only building piece, but he's a building piece. And you have 4 years or 3 years left of control. Sorry, that rant. I love Jazz. He's such a good guy from a fan perspective.
I think that goes. I think that's a little bit unknown. I think that's hidden, by the way. Like, people that are at the ballpark will see it, and that's the general vibe. That's all I ever hear about Jazz is he's exceptional with the fans. He gives them so much time. The fans love him in the ballpark, not just the people watching, from me from afar. Like, I love Jazz too, because like Skip said yesterday, like, he's a true difference maker. He's the only difference maker, and Skip was right to call that out. Like, he is the only difference maker in that lineup right now. The rest of the guys, on any given day, anything can happen, but Jazz can make things happen in so many different ways. But I do think the thing that you called out there of, like, it is hidden, the way he is and the way he is with fans and the amount of time he gives up and the way he's willing to engage. You won't see that on the TV, but it's great to hear it from you. And that is hidden because a lot of people see Jazz, his ego, overrated guy, can't stay healthy. But there's a lot of soft elements to Jazz. And there's a lot of growing up he's done as well, I must say, which I think is what you've called out, which is right. The other thing to mention, I think that you've nailed on here, the why now. That question of why now, the sense, and I think you've probably hit the nail here, that the Marlins are thinking, okay, Tanner Scott, great reliever as he may be, problem is he's only got 2 months remaining on this deal. So it becomes a Jazz plus Tanner Scott situation, the ultimate package, the ultimate difference maker package for a club. And that's how the Marlins can actually get some proper chips back. That becomes the package, doesn't it? I think as much as you want to nibble around the edges, Cronin, Fauché, they're not going to bring anything meaningful. But if you package Jazz and Tanner Scott, that's your blockbuster there. That's your difference maker.
And
I don't know.
That one team is the Yankees that's being talked about.
Yeah, you've been talking about it.
Yankees could use them. And from a financial standpoint, excuse me, it makes sense if they work out this deal. Again, I don't want it to happen. If the Marlins are still on the hook, I think, for at least 1 year, if not two, 10 million years on the John Carlos Stanton money. If they can get the Yankees to buy back that 10 million or 20 million that's still owed for Jazz and Tanner, you're also taking Jazz's salary next year as he moves up in arbitration. He was owed what, 3.2 this year. Tanner, you're taking Tanner's remaining, let's say 3 or 4 on the season.
Yeah, he's probably got 2 left, Tanner. Yeah, 2 and a bit maybe this year. Jazz maybe a mil, but yeah, future years. There's a bit of money exchanging hands. You're right.
Yeah, and then you lose 16.5 and Josh Bell comes off the books. If they can make that move happen for next season, that's 30 million in savings that, and the fans are going to hate this, the ownership's going to pocket.
Oh, they're going to pocket. They're not invested. No. There's no free agents for $30 million. Not a chance in hell. Not a chance.
Nope. So that's a financial sense move, and although I'll hate it, and I want to see that B+ prospect we get back that's going to be really young. I'd like to see if Bendix can pull that off, because that is a big-time move to set your future up of bringing in money for your franchise. And then you're talking about 2026, 27. What's next?
Yep. Yeah. And that's the window we're talking about here. Like we're talking 26 beyond, to be honest with you. So it's going to be a long road here for the Fish, but they've got assets right now. It's how do they maximize them to suit the business model they're trying to do in the window they have. It's challenging for the fans, but I think we all need to get on board with this. Like, I know people are going, hey, well, maybe we're a bat or 2 away. If the rotation's healthy, it's a nonsense. It's a nonsense. 25 is going to be cooked. They're not investing. It's going to be tough.
If this team was going to compete, if this team wanted to stay together, they should have not lost their first 9 games this year. They should have not went 1 in like 15 or 16. If this team cared enough to have stuck together, which give Peter Bendix for what it is, and how he didn't make moves, he kept them together and didn't cash in on Jesus Luzardo or cash in on a rise before the season. He said, go for it. And I'm not sticking up for this, right? I'm just stating the truth. This is not me sticking up for Bendix, being a homer or an owner lover. I don't like it. I hate it. Yeah. I hate the fact that I go to other stadiums, good or bad, and those stadiums are packed, if not full. There is nothing like baseball in a good experience for a good stadium experience. I hate it. But for all the bad that he's done, which isn't really bad, he's doing what he said he's doing. I'm building for the future now. The team should have not started out 0-9 and 1 for 15 or 17, whatever the abysmal start that they had.
That was it. It was done.
You can't come back from that. We were done 3 weeks in. They say you can't lose a season in April. We lost the season in April.
Oh, 100%. And Bendix showed that. 3rd of May, Arias gone. Like, the Marlins, literally, their season was over in the first 3 weeks. It was done. It was cooked. I want to hit the final ad. I want to ask you specifically about Xavier Edwards straight after the break in terms of what you made of him at shortstop. Before we do that, let's let you know about our good friends over at PrizePicks, and it's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. It has over 5 million active members and is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do, pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in, baby. You can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Turn $10 into 1,000. And if you're looking for promotions, PrizePicks has got you covered every single week. Tuesdays, they lower select player stat projections to help your lineup hit. Or on Fridays, so get this in your diary, get remembering this, on Fridays, you get your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's Locked On MLB on PrizePicks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, guys, final segment here. We are running a little bit long, but it has been a glorious conversation with the loud Marlins fan. Of course, I want to ask you about Xavier Edwards. We talked plenty about Jazz. He hasn't transitioned back to the infield. We haven't got time to talk about that specifically. Xavier Edwards installed as the everyday shortstop. Throwing error yesterday. What have you made of Xavier Edwards at shortstop? What is your feeling around him for the future? Is you're looking ahead to 25? Will Xavier Edwards be the starting shortstop for the Marlins?
No, then he shouldn't be. He should be the starting second baseman for the Florida
baby.
Marlins. There should be no reason why Xavier's not in the next 2 years, barring injury, barring performance drop-off. But the guy could hit. Yesterday was the first 0-for game, which he's a rookie. He's allowed. The biggest stars go 0-for. I mean, just last week, or this past weekend, Jake Berger struck out 5 times. The next day, he hits a home run. No. I like Xavier Edwards. I'm calling for Xavier Edwards to be up since they made the trade last year for him. All he does is hit. He's not a shortstop. He was a shortstop as a prospect coming up, but any scout, and I listen a lot to our friends at Fish on First. There's nothing that Alex can't say on that team. For that team from the minor leagues, that's Marlins Minors, Fish on the Farm on X. Alex has gone in depth about this guy not being a shortstop. He doesn't have the arm. He's been good at stopping the ball, that speed, that skill, but he can't throw. He can throw. I say I can't throw 5 feet. That guy can throw, but he's not a shortstop. I also saw him make a good turn for a double play or a good throw to second in one of the innings yesterday. So, but he doesn't have the arm. It's his like 3rd error since coming up. But this is what, maybe he just needs. He hasn't had a lot of time at the position after being taken away last year by Kim Ng and the staff from the position. Remember, he came in as a short. They moved him to second and right field. He hasn't had the time to get the mechanics back. We'll see. And that's why they got rid of Anderson, who was nothing but good for us as far as off the field. He was great in the locker room, but you replace him with a guy who can hit. So you sacrifice the fielding now for a guy who can hit. And that's important as this team builds. I like Xavier. He should be our second baseman.
Chase, I think you nailed it. I feel exactly the same about Xavier Edwards. That he's a second baseman, and he should be starting at second base for the Marlins for many years. He is a Luis Arias. He's a better version of Luis Arias defensively, not offensively, but a similar profile. And so this type of guy you want to build around. I don't know why they're wasting their time messing around trying to make him a shortstop. Don't bother. Put someone else at shortstop instead. It doesn't really matter. I like the way I did like the move to move on from Tim Anderson, Deadwood, give other guys opportunities. But I'm not convinced that opportunity needed to be Xavier Edwards at shortstop. Didn't make a ton of sense to me. Leave Bruhan there. I don't really know. But nevertheless, we're out of time. It's been a fun episode. It's been a fun evening here in England, no doubt about it. I watched the game at home with my kids. I've definitely already seen tons of clips out there of bars, clubs, streets, people going absolutely crazy here in England. So I'm absolutely pumped. Looking forward to Sunday against England against Spain for the Euro. Should be a lot of fun. Chase, thanks for joining me. Make sure to follow him, of course, on X at Loud Miami Fan. Guys, thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen. Be back tomorrow as we recap on Game 2 against the Astros. I will talk about Trevor's length, actually, tomorrow on the show as well. Look forward to seeing you then.